We are back. This your boy Jay Shy from the Behind the Bench Network. Shout out to the Behind the Bench crew. Catch their videos. You can find us also on YouTube. So this is part 2 on what I believe what is a super team, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So I want to continue from my last video. I think I left off talking about two superstars like a Kobe and Shaq, and then the third player um, had an all-star year, but that don't mean he was an all-star consensus. For the next 4 or 5 years, he probably got rewarded for being an all-star because probably the Lakers had the best record at the time, by all-star break. So since the team was good, we see this all the time where a team might have 3 all-stars, 4 all-stars. But, that don't mean it's a super team. Because like I said, a super team consists of superstar players, not all-star players. When you have a superstar and 2 all-star type caliber players, that's more like a big 3. If you have 3 old superstars, and I'm going to get into it, I'm going to start giving y'all a lot of examples on what's a super team and what's not a super team, if they was a super team, if they wasn't a super team. I'm going to get into a lot of examples, but if you had 3 old superstars that's out of their prime, or they got together and they all, 2 of them is outside of their prime and the other one is still, he got maybe a year left in his prime, that's not a super team, people. Those are just some old cats, stars that's trying to get a championship because they couldn't, they couldn't get one during their playing career. But let me go back to the 80s, because I hear a lot of people that will say, well, the Showtime Lakers was a super team. Were they really a super team? Let's go ahead and break this down. Magic comes in the league in 79. He plays with franchise player at the time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's just him and Magic. James Worthy comes into the mix. James Worthy was not a superstar, and Magic was not a superstar at that time. Magic was an all-star by 83, but he wasn't a superstar. The only superstar that they had was Kareem. James Worthy was a rookie. So by the time they get to 85, James Worthy, I don't even know if he I can't even remember if he was an all-star by 85. I know Magic was an all-star, and Kareem, he was pretty much outside of his prime. He was outside. He was done. He was done being a superstar player. Okay, so the team was starting to shift to Magic, but at that time, Magic wasn't a Hall of Fame player. I'm sorry. Whoever thought Magic was a Hall of Fame player in 1985, you were delusional. He was an all-star player. I wouldn't even say that he was a superstar player. He was probably one of the, he still wasn't one of the elite best players in the league at that time. It's coming. It's coming. I would say after that finals and tragic Magic, and he came back in 86, and that's when he started really becoming that superstar player. 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. He was a superstar player. He was a well-known name because he was in the finals so much. But I don't think he was a superstar. Same way, Kobe was well known from the time he was from 1996 to 2000, even though he made a couple all-star games, but didn't nobody say he was a superstar. It was not until after those 2000 championships when people started recognizing Kobe as one of the best players in the league. So by the time the Lakers went back to back in 87, 88, right? Magic was a superstar. James Worthy was an all-star. He was never James Worthy was a big his name Big Game James came because how great he was as a playoff performer. But he wasn't I don't even think he was considered a superstar player at the time. I don't think at that time him coming in the league in 80 what was that? What I say 83? And I could be wrong. Don't quote me, but I believe it was 83. Him coming into the league. By the time 80, 87, 88, James Worthy was not considered a Hall of Fame player, and he was not considered a franchise player. Kareem was still on the team, but Kareem was past his prime. Was that Lakers? They did good drafting players. They did good developing players. They ran a nice system. They was in the finals, so a lot of people think that Laker team was a super team, but no, they wasn't. They're not. They was nowhere close to being a super team. Just because your team draft well and the players develop and they get better, that don't make them a super team. Like I said, it's a formula. It's superstar players teaming up in their prime. Superstar players in their prime being on the same team. 3, not 2, 3. Because we done seen teams with 2 superstars. And didn't nobody ever say that, oh, they was a super team. Okay? The other team that was dominated in the 80s also, Boston Celtics. Larry Bird. He was winning MVPs. He was a superstar player. You could probably say he was one of the players that was still playing around that time, from the time he was drafted to him winning his second and third MVP, that he was considered a Hall of Fame player, and that's how he got his name, Larry Legend. He didn't get that name after his career. He got that name because he was a legend playing still. Okay? It's only a couple players that impacted the game so much that they was Hall of Fame players within their first 6-7 years. And like I said, by the time Magic in 87, he was considered a Hall of Fame player. Bird by 86, 87 also. Then you had like Kareem. Kareem was, everybody knew who Kareem was. He was good. He was great in college. He was on some of the iconic UCLA teams. By the time he came in his rookie year, he was already a superstar player. In his rookie year. Same thing with Will Chamberlain. Same thing with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was that dude coming in to the league in that first year. Everybody knew, okay, this dude's going to be great. His game proved it. But let's go back to the Celtics. You had Kevin McHale, you had Robert Parrish. Was nobody saying if Robert Parrish was on his own team, he could lead them to a championship? So was he a superstar? No. Was he an all-star? Yes. Same thing for Kevin McHale. Was he a superstar? No. Didn't nobody say, well, if we could get Kevin McHale, yeah, he could score, but if we could get him and put some players around him, he could lead us to a championship like Larry Bird. No, didn't nobody say that. Nobody. They was all-star players. They didn't become they was not even considered Hall of Fame players until after their career was over. It's only a couple players that played during their career that played within the first 7-8 years that was considered a Hall of Fame player. It's like that in sports. You knew Barry Bonds when he played in Pittsburgh, you knew he was a Hall of Fame player. Ken Griffey, you knew he was a Hall of Fame player. Jerry Rice, you knew he was going to be a Hall of Fame player. Joe Montana, Hall of Fame player. Deion Sanders, Hall of Fame player. Reggie White, Hall of Fame player. I could keep going. But certain players, they're not considered Hall of Fame players until after their season. After their careers was over. So let's go into the 90s. Everybody will say, well, the Bulls had a super team. They had Pippen, Mike, and Rodman. That was not a super team. You had a superstar player in Mike, and by the time Pippen became a superstar player, I want to say probably 90, 93-ish. From the time he was drafted to 93, he didn't really become a superstar player until 93. I want to say 93, maybe 92. That's when he started being a superstar player. And then when everybody forget they had Horace Grant. Horace Grant was an all-star, but when they got Dennis Rodman was great, but he wasn't a superstar player. He wasn't even an all-star some years. He wasn't even an all-star. But like I said, it goes back to, what did somebody think that Scottie Pippen could lead a team? Yeah, some people did. Everybody knew Michael could lead a team, put him on any team you want. But did anybody ever say, well, if we get Dennis Rodman and build and get some right pieces, he could lead us to? No, he was an all-star capable player. That team was not a super team. But I'm going to go ahead and make a part 3, and I'm going to continue giving these examples. Okay? So check us out. Subscribe if you like this content. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube. Hit us up. This is the Behind the Bench Network. I'm your boy, Jay Shad. Catch the Behind the Bench crew, and I'm out.